I never planned to fall in love with her. In fact, the first time she asked me to be her girlfriend, I laughed. Because it wasn't real. It was supposed to be a lie, a simple little lie. She just needed someone to pretend with. Someone to make her ex jealous. And somehow, I was the girl she chose. At first it felt like a joke. Holding her hand in public. Taking fake couple photos. Calling each other baby in front of people. But the strange thing about pretending to be in love is that sometimes your heart forgets it's supposed to be fake. Because the way she looked at me. The way she smiled when our fingers touched. The way she whispered my name when nobody else was around. It didn't feel like acting anymore. And the worst part, she still thought this was just a game. But my heart was already breaking. Because the day our fake relationship ended, I realized something terrifying. I wasn't pretending anymore. I was completely, hopelessly in love with her. And she had no idea. I still remember the first time I saw her. It was the beginning of my second semester at college. The campus was loud and busy, students rushing everywhere like they always did at the start of a new term. I was sitting alone outside the library, trying to finish a psychology assignment before class started. That's when someone suddenly dropped into the chair across from me. I looked up, slightly annoyed at the interruption. And then I saw her. She had soft black hair falling over her shoulders, warm brown eyes, and the kind of smile that made you feel like she already knew you. "Hey," she said casually, like we had been friends for years. I blinked in confusion. "Hi, do I know you?" She laughed softly. "No. But I know you." That sentence instantly made me nervous. "What do you mean?" I asked. She leaned forward slightly, resting her elbows on the table. "You're Emma, right? Psychology major. You work part-time at the campus cafe." Now I was officially confused. "Yes, but how do you know that?" She shrugged. "I notice things." Then she extended her hand across the table. "I'm Yuna." The moment our hands touched, something strange happened. Not dramatic. Not magical. Just a tiny spark of awareness. Like suddenly my brain was paying more attention than usual. But I quickly ignored it. Because honestly, she seemed a little weird. "So, Yuna," I said carefully, pulling my hand back. "Why were you looking for me?" She leaned back in her chair and sighed. "Okay, I'm just going to say it." I waited. "I need you to pretend to be my girlfriend." For a moment, I thought I had heard her wrong. "Sorry, what?" "My girlfriend," she repeated calmly. I stared at her. "You don't even know me." "I know enough." "That doesn't explain anything." She ran a hand through her hair, clearly frustrated. "Look, my ex goes to this university. And she's dating someone new now. But she keeps watching me, like she's waiting to see if I've moved on." And I asked. "And I need her to think I have." I crossed my arms. "So you randomly picked me?" "Well," she admitted with a playful smile. "You're cute. And you look trustworthy." I almost laughed. "That is the worst reason I've ever heard." "Please," she said, leaning forward again. "Just for a few weeks. We hold hands sometimes, maybe sit together at parties, nothing crazy." I shook my head. "No." She frowned. "Why not?" "Because it's weird. And fake relationships always end badly." She studied my face carefully. Then she asked quietly, are you afraid you might like me? My face instantly got hot. That's not the point. Her smile slowly returned. So it's possible. I grabbed my bag and stood up. This conversation is over. But just as I started walking away, she called out behind me. Emma. I turned back. She was still sitting there, watching me with those calm, confident eyes. If you change your mind, she said, I'll be at the cafe tomorrow morning. Then she added one more thing, and I promise. I'm a very convincing girlfriend. For the rest of the day, I couldn't stop thinking about that stupid conversation. About her confident smile. About the way she looked completely sure that I would come back. And the worst part, a tiny voice in my head kept whispering something dangerous. What if pretending wouldn't be so bad? But at that moment, I had no idea that saying yes to Yuna would change my life completely. Because fake love has a way of becoming real. And when it does, someone always ends up getting hurt. The next morning, I told myself I wasn't going to the cafe for her. I repeated it in my head at least 10 times while walking across campus. I'm just getting coffee. That's it. But deep down, I knew that was a lie. Because the moment I pushed open the cafe door, my eyes immediately started searching the room. And there she was. Sitting at a small corner table near the window. Yuna. She looked up the second I walked in, like she had been expecting me the entire time. And when our eyes met, she smiled. Not a surprised smile. Not a curious smile. A victory smile. I walked up to the counter and ordered a coffee, trying my best to ignore her. But when I turned around, she was already standing behind me. You came, she said softly. I sighed. I didn't come for you. Of course not, she replied with a playful grin. We stood there for a moment in awkward silence. Then she leaned closer and lowered her voice. My ex is here. My heart skipped. What? Don't look, she whispered quickly. Which of course made me want to look even more. But before I could react, Yuna gently grabbed my hand. The contact caught me completely off guard. Her fingers were warm, and surprisingly soft. I froze. There, she murmured. Now just act natural. Natural, I whispered back. You're holding my hand in the middle of a cafe. That's the point. My heart was suddenly beating way too fast. And the worst part, I wasn't pulling my hand away. Instead, I was letting her hold it. Yuna casually led me toward her table, our fingers still intertwined. To anyone watching, we probably looked like a normal couple. But inside my head, everything felt chaotic. We sat down across from each other. Still holding hands. Relax, she said quietly. You look like you're about to pass out. I'm not used to fake dating strangers, I muttered. You won't be strangers for long. I rolled my eyes. Then she suddenly leaned across the table. And kissed my cheek. I nearly dropped my coffee. What are you doing? She leaned back calmly. My ex was watching. I instinctively glanced over her shoulder. Across the cafe, a girl with long blonde hair was staring directly at us. And she did not look happy. Yuna squeezed my hand slightly. See, she whispered. It's working. I slowly turned back toward her. Okay, I said quietly. Let's set some rules. Her eyebrow lifted. Rules? Yes. If I'm going to help you with this ridiculous plan, there are conditions. She smiled again. I'm listening. I took a deep breath. First, this is temporary. Just until your ex believes you've moved on. Fair. Second, no surprises. No random kissing without warning. She chuckled. I'll try. And third. I hesitated slightly. This stays fake. For a brief moment, something in her expression changed. Something softer. Something almost disappointed. But it disappeared quickly. Of course, she said lightly. Completely fake. At the time, I believed her. I believed that everything between us was just acting. Just pretending. Just a harmless little lie. But the truth is, that was the moment everything started. Because the more time we spent pretending to be in love, the harder it became to remember that it wasn't real. And soon, my heart was going to forget the difference. After that day in the cafe, everything started changing. At first, it was small things. Walking across campus together. Sitting next to each other in the library. Sharing lunch at the same table. To everyone around us, we looked like a normal couple. But for me, it still felt strange. Because every time Yuna held my hand in public, my heart reacted like it was real. And that scared me. One afternoon, we were walking across campus after class. The sky was turning orange as the sun began to set, painting the buildings in warm light. Yuna suddenly stopped walking. What? I asked. She tilted her head slightly, studying my face. You're still nervous around me. I'm not nervous. You are. I'm just adjusting. She smiled softly. You know, fake girlfriends are usually a little more affectionate. I crossed my arms. Well, maybe you should have hired a professional actress. She laughed. I like you better. Before I could respond, she gently grabbed my wrist and pulled me closer to her. Too close. Our faces were only inches apart now. My heart instantly started racing. Yuna, I whispered nervously. People are staring. Good, she said quietly. Then she wrapped her arm around my waist. The sudden closeness made my entire body freeze. Not because I hated it. But because I didn't. In fact, it felt strangely comfortable. Like I belonged there. Relax, she murmured near my ear. Remember, we're supposed to look convincing. I swallowed hard. You're enjoying this way too much. Maybe. Her voice sounded playful, but there was something else in it too. Something deeper. Something real. A group of students walked past us, glancing at us curiously. And suddenly I realized something strange. No one looked shocked. No one looked confused. To them, we were just another couple. Just two girls in love. And somehow, that idea made my chest feel warm. Later that night, Yuna texted me. Yuna, movie night at my apartment. Part of the act. I stared at my phone for a long time. Going to her apartment felt different. More private. More dangerous. But eventually, I typed back. Emma, fine. But this is still fake. A few seconds later she replied. Yuna, of course it is. But when I arrived at her apartment later that evening, something about the atmosphere felt different. The lights were dim. Soft music was playing quietly in the background. And Yuna was sitting on the couch, wearing a loose sweater and soft shorts, looking relaxed, and unbelievably beautiful. For a moment, I forgot how to breathe. She looked up and smiled. You came. Yeah, I said awkwardly, stepping inside. The door closed behind me. And suddenly the room felt much smaller. Much quieter. Much more intimate. Yuna patted the couch beside her. Come sit. I slowly walked over and sat down next to her. Closer than I expected. Our shoulders were almost touching. She pressed play on the movie. But neither of us were really watching it. Because every few minutes, our arms brushed, our knees touched. And each time it happened, my heart reacted like it was something important. After a while, Yuna spoke quietly. Emma. Yet. Can I ask you something? I turned toward her. What? Her eyes were softer than I had ever seen them before. Why did you really agree to do this? I opened my mouth to answer. But the truth was, I didn't actually know. At the beginning, it was just a favor. A silly fake relationship. But now, things felt different. More complicated. More real. And deep down, a terrifying thought was starting to form in my mind. What if I wasn't pretending anymore? What if somewhere along the way, I had actually started falling for her? And if that was true, then this fake relationship was about to become the biggest mistake of my life. The movie kept playing on the screen. But honestly, I had no idea what it was about. Because every part of my attention was focused on one thing. Yuna. She was sitting so close to me that I could feel the warmth of her arm against mine. Every time she moved slightly, our shoulders brushed together. And every time it happened, my heart reacted like it was something dangerous. Something I shouldn't be feeling. After a few minutes, Yuna suddenly paused the movie. The room instantly became quiet. Too quiet. Emma, she said softly. I turned to look at her. What? For a moment she didn't answer. She was just watching me. Studying my face like she was trying to understand something. You never answered my question, she said. Which one? Why you agreed to do this? I looked away quickly. I told you. You needed help. That's not the real reason. I felt my chest tighten. What makes you think that? She smiled slightly. Because every time I touch you, you forget how to breathe. My face immediately got hot. That's not true. Emma, she said gently. My name sounded different when she said it. Softer. More personal. I finally looked back at her. And suddenly I realized how close we were sitting. Our faces were only a few inches apart. Close enough that I could see every detail in her eyes. Close enough that I could feel her breathing. Maybe I'm just not used to this, I whispered. Used to what? Pretending. Her expression changed slightly. Do you still think this is pretending? The question caught me off guard. Of course it is. She didn't answer immediately. Instead, her gaze slowly dropped to my lips. My heart instantly started racing. Yuna. I said nervously. But she moved a little closer. Not fast. Not aggressively. Just slowly. Like she was giving me time to stop her if I wanted. But I didn't move. I didn't pull away. I didn't say anything. Because the truth was, part of me didn't want this moment to stop. Her hand gently touched my arm. And suddenly the entire room felt different. Quieter. Warmer. More intimate. Emma, she whispered. My name sounded almost like a question. Like she was asking permission. My brain was screaming that this was a bad idea, that this was supposed to be fake. That crossing this line would only make everything more complicated. But my heart was saying something completely different. For a moment, we just stayed there. Close enough to kiss. Close enough to feel each other's breath. And I realized something terrifying. If she kissed me right now, I wouldn't stop her. But just as the moment was about to happen, Yuna suddenly leaned back. The distance between us returned. And the spell was broken. She looked away and let out a small breath. "Sorry," she said quietly. I blinked, still trying to process what almost happened. For what? I forgot the rules. The rules. Right. This was supposed to stay fake. And suddenly my chest felt strangely empty. Like something important had almost happened. Something I secretly wanted, but wasn't allowed to have. Yuna picked up the remote and restarted the movie. But neither of us were paying attention anymore. Because now there was something new between us. Something neither of us wanted to say out loud. And the scariest part, that almost kiss, was only the beginning. Because very soon, our fake relationship was about to become much more real than either of us expected. After that night, things between us felt different. We never talked about the moment that almost happened on the couch. The moment where Yuna almost kissed me. But pretending it didn't happen, didn't make it disappear. If anything, it made everything more confusing. Because now every time we were together, there was a strange tension between us. Like we were both thinking about the same thing, but neither of us wanted to say it. The next few days passed quickly. We kept pretending to be a couple around campus. Holding hands. Walking together. Sitting close in the cafeteria. But now it didn't feel like acting anymore. And that scared me. One evening, Yuna texted me again. "Yuna, party tonight. My ex will be there." I sighed when I saw the message. "Emma, so I'm needed for the performance again." A few seconds later she replied. "Yuna, only if you want to come." I stared at the screen. Part of me wanted to say no. Because being around her was becoming dangerous for my heart. But another part of me wanted to see her. So I typed back. "Emma, send me the address." The party was already loud when I arrived. Music was blasting through the house, and students filled every room. I looked around for Yuna. Then suddenly I felt a familiar hand grab mine. "There you are." I turned and saw her standing behind me. She looked amazing. Her dark hair was slightly messy, and she was wearing a fitted black top with soft shorts. For a moment, I forgot what I was supposed to say. "You look different," I managed. She smiled. "Good different?" I nodded quickly. "Yet." Her fingers were still wrapped around mine. And just like every other time she touched me, my heart reacted instantly. "Come on," she said softly. "My ex is here." She pulled me deeper into the crowd. And then I saw her. The blonde girl from the cafe. She was standing across the room, staring directly at us. Yuna noticed too. Without warning, she stepped closer to me. Much closer. Her arm wrapped around my waist. My breath caught. "You okay?" she whispered near my ear. "I think so." "Good," she said softly. Then she turned my face toward hers. And before I could react, she kissed me. Not on the cheek this time. Not as part of some obvious act. This kiss was different. Soft. Warm. Real. For a split second, my brain completely shut down. But then something unexpected happened. I kissed her back. The room around us disappeared. The music faded into the background. And for that moment, nothing existed except her. When the kiss finally ended, we slowly pulled apart. My heart was beating so fast I thought everyone could hear it. Yuna looked just as surprised as I felt. Across the room, her ex was staring at us in shock. Clearly the plan had worked. But the problem was, that kiss didn't feel fake at all. Yuna looked at me quietly. Emma. Her voice sounded different now. More serious. More careful. But before she could finish the sentence, I whispered the one thing that scared me the most, that didn't feel like pretending. And deep down, I knew everything between us had just changed forever. For a few seconds after the kiss, neither of us moved. The music from the party was still loud. People were still talking and laughing around us. But it felt like the entire room had gone silent. Yuna was still standing close to me. Too close. Her hand was still resting on my waist. And my heart was beating so fast I could barely breathe. That didn't feel like pretending. The words had already left my mouth. And now I couldn't take them back. Yuna looked at me quietly. Her expression had changed. The playful confidence she always had, was gone. Now she looked serious. Almost nervous. Before she could say anything, someone shouted from across the room. Yuna. We both turned. Her ex was walking toward us. Fast. The blonde girl stopped right in front of us, clearly angry. So this is your new girlfriend? She asked sharply. Yuna didn't hesitate. Yes. Her voice was calm. Confident. But I could feel the tension in her body. The blonde girl looked at me carefully. Then she laughed. Wow. You moved on fast. Yuna didn't respond. Instead, she pulled me slightly closer to her. A protective gesture. The girl rolled her eyes. Relax. I'm not here to start drama. She crossed her arms. I just wanted to see if the rumors were true. Rumors? I asked before I could stop myself. She smirked. Oh, you didn't know. I felt a sudden knot in my stomach. Know what? Her eyes moved back to Yuna. You didn't tell her. Yuna's voice became sharp. Don't. But the girl ignored her. Everyone knows Yuna has a habit of playing with people's feelings. My chest tightened. What does that mean? The blonde girl shrugged. She gets bored easily. Relationships don't last long with her. I looked at Yuna, waiting for her to say something. To deny it. But she stayed silent. That silence hurt more than anything. See, the girl said quietly. She didn't tell you. Enough, Yuna said firmly. Her voice was colder now. The blonde girl lifted her hands. Fine. I'm done. Then she looked at me one last time. Just be careful. And with that, she walked away. The moment she disappeared into the crowd, the tension between Yuna and me became unbearable. I slowly stepped back, creating space between us. Emma, Yuna said softly. But I shook my head. Is it true? She hesitated. That hesitation said everything. My heart sank. So this whole thing? I whispered. Emma, listen to me. Was I just another game to you? Her eyes widened. No. That's not what this is. Then what is it? For the first time since I met her, Yuna didn't have an answer. And that terrified me. Because suddenly I realized something painful. Somewhere along the way, this fake relationship had become real for me. But maybe for her, it was still just a game. And if that was true, then my heart was about to get broken. After that night at the party, everything felt different. The walk back to my dorm was quiet. Too quiet. Yuna kept walking beside me, but neither of us spoke. Her words from earlier, or rather, her lack of words, kept repeating in my mind. She gets bored easily. Relationships don't last long with her. I tried to ignore it. But the doubt had already planted itself deep inside my chest. Finally, we reached the entrance to my dorm building. I stopped walking. Yuna stopped too. For a moment, we just stood there under the dim yellow lights outside the building. "Emma," she said gently. I looked away. "I'm tired." That girl was trying to start trouble. "Maybe," I replied quietly. "But you didn't deny what she said." Yuna sighed softly. "It's not that simple." That answer only made my chest feel heavier. "Then explain it." She ran a hand through her hair, clearly frustrated. "My past relationships weren't great." "That's not an explanation." "I know." Her voice sounded quieter now. More vulnerable than I had ever heard it before. "I just never stayed in one place very long." "And why is that?" She looked down at the ground. "Because I was afraid." That surprised me. "Afraid of what?" "Getting hurt." I blinked. That wasn't the answer I expected. Yuna slowly looked back up at me. "Every time I started to actually care about someone, something went wrong." "So you left first," I said softly. She didn't respond. But the silence confirmed it. A small part of my heart softened. But another part of me was still scared. Because I had already started caring about her. More than I wanted to admit. "Emma," she said quietly. "Tonight, that kiss wasn't fake." My heart skipped again. "But I don't know what this is yet," she continued. "And I don't want to hurt you." I swallowed hard. "Well, you might already be doing that." The words hung heavily between us. For a long moment, neither of us moved. Then I took a small step back toward the dorm entrance. "I think we should slow down," I said carefully. Her eyes changed instantly. Not angry. Not upset. Just sad. "Slow down," she repeated. "This whole thing started as a fake relationship," I said. "And now everything feels complicated." "So what are you saying?" I hesitated. "Maybe we should stop pretending." Those words hurt more than I expected. Because pretending was the only reason we had gotten close in the first place. Yuna stared at me for a long moment. Then she nodded slowly. "If that's what you want." Her voice sounded calm. But something about her expression looked broken. I turned toward the dorm door. But just before going inside, I glanced back at her one last time. She was still standing there. Alone. Watching me walk away. And for the first time since I met her, Yuna didn't try to stop me. But something deep inside my chest whispered a painful truth. Walking away from her might be the biggest mistake I've ever made. The next few days were harder than I expected. At first, I thought creating distance from Yuna would make everything easier. But instead, it made everything worse. Campus suddenly felt different without her. The cafeteria felt quieter. The library felt emptier. Even the small cafe where we first met didn't feel the same anymore. Everywhere I went, something reminded me of her. I tried to avoid the places we used to sit together. I even changed my usual route between classes. But somehow, my mind kept going back to the same memories. Her smile. Her laugh. The way her hand felt when she held mine. And most of all, that kiss. Because no matter how many times I replayed that moment in my head, it never felt fake. One afternoon, I was sitting in the library trying to focus on my notes. But my eyes kept drifting toward the entrance. Almost like I was expecting someone to walk in. Her. I sighed and rubbed my forehead. This is ridiculous, I muttered to myself. I needed to move on. That's what normal people did. They moved on. But just as I packed my bag to leave, someone suddenly stepped in front of my table. I looked up. And my heart instantly skipped. Yuna. She looked slightly out of breath, like she had been searching for me. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Students around us continued studying, completely unaware of the tension between us. Finally, she said quietly, "Hi." I swallowed. "Hi." The awkwardness between us felt heavy. Yuna glanced at the empty chair across from me. "Can I sit?" I hesitated. Then nodded. She sat down slowly. For a few seconds, she just looked at me. Like she was trying to figure out what to say. "You've been avoiding me," she said softly. I looked down at my notebook. "I've been busy." "That's not true." I sighed. "What do you want, Yuna?" The question came out sharper than I intended. But instead of getting defensive, she looked serious. "I want to talk." "About what?" "About us." My chest tightened. "There is no us," I said quickly. Her eyes flickered with pain. "That's not true. It was a fake relationship." "That's how it started," she replied. Her voice was calm, but firm. "But that's not what it is anymore." I didn't answer. Because part of me was afraid of where this conversation was going. Yuna leaned forward slightly. "Emma. I've been thinking a lot the past few days. And I realized something." My heart began beating faster again. "What?" Her eyes locked with mine. The same intense gaze that always made my thoughts disappear. "I don't want to pretend anymore." The words hit me harder than I expected. "What does that mean?" I asked quietly. "It means..." She paused. Almost like the next words were difficult to say. "I want this to be real." The room suddenly felt very small. Very quiet. Because the girl who used to treat everything like a game, was now looking at me like this moment meant everything. But my heart was still afraid. Afraid of trusting her. Afraid of getting hurt. So instead of answering, I asked the one question that mattered most. "Yuna. Yet. How do I know you won't get bored of me too?" For the first time since we met, Yuna didn't smile. Instead, she said something so honest, it made my entire chest ache. "You don't." And somehow, that honesty made the moment feel even more real. The words hung between us like fragile glass. "You don't." I felt my chest tighten, my stomach twisting. Because for the first time, Yuna wasn't pretending. She wasn't playful. She wasn't acting confident or teasing. She was completely honest. And that honesty terrified me. I wanted to reach out, to pull her close and promise I wouldn't leave. But my own fear stopped me. "What do you mean?" I whispered. "I mean," Yuna said slowly, searching my eyes. "I don't know the future. I don't know if this will last forever. But I do know what I feel, right now." Her hand hovered near mine, hesitant, as if asking permission. My heart screamed at me to grab it, to hold it, to finally stop pretending. I swallowed hard. And if I fall for you? Her lips curved into the tiniest, almost nervous smile. Then I'll fall too. And maybe, we'll figure it out together. The tension broke slightly, replaced by warmth I hadn't realized I'd been craving for days. Slowly, carefully, I reached out. Our fingers brushed. Electricity shot through me. Yuna held my hand, lacing her fingers with mine. Not pretending. Not fake. Real. The library, the students, the world around us, all of it disappeared. And for a moment, it felt like it was just the two of us. I could feel my walls starting to crumble. I don't want to pretend anymore either, I admitted softly. Her eyes widened slightly, like she couldn't believe she'd heard it. Then she leaned in, ever so slightly. I held my breath. Close enough to feel her warmth. Close enough to finally let myself fall. You're really scaring me, she whispered. I'm scared too, I replied. And in that perfect, fragile moment, I realized that fear didn't matter. Love didn't wait for permission. We stayed like that for a long, quiet moment, just holding hands, letting the tension and the emotions sink in. And as I looked into her eyes, I knew one thing: this was no longer a game. This was real. And I was ready, or at least, as ready as I could be to let myself feel everything, for Yuna. The next few days felt surreal. Suddenly, every glance, every touch, every small moment with Yuna carried weight. Even the simple act of walking across campus together felt different. Every student we passed, every corner we turned, it was like we were finally visible, not pretending, not hiding. But the world outside us hadn't changed. Whispers started. A few people noticed our closeness. Some stared. Others smiled. And the campus cafe, our first meeting place, suddenly felt charged every time we walked in together. Yuna was radiant. She walked with a confidence I hadn't seen before. But when her eyes met mine, there was softness, vulnerability. One afternoon, we ended up sitting on the grass near the library. The sun was warm, golden, and the leaves rustled gently in the breeze. I'm still scared, I admitted quietly, finally letting my fears spill out. She turned to me, brushing a strand of hair behind my ear. I know. Me too. I swallowed hard. But, I don't want to hide from it anymore. I don't want to pretend. Her hand found mine again, lacing our fingers. Neither do I. That's why I want to try, truly try. With no games, no pretending, no doubts. The sincerity in her voice made my chest ache. I leaned closer. But what if something goes wrong? She smiled softly, tilting her head. Then we deal with it together. That's what love is, right? I nodded. And in that moment, I knew she was right. We leaned closer, faces just inches apart. The air between us was heavy with anticipation. My heart pounded. And then softly, slowly we kissed. Not fake. Not a gesture for anyone else. Just two hearts, finally admitting the truth to themselves. The world didn't exist anymore. Not the whispers, not the doubts, not the fake reasons we started this. Only Yuna. Only us. When we pulled back, her forehead rested against mine. Her breath was warm, and I could feel the steady beat of her heart against mine. I've wanted this for so long, she whispered. Me too, I said. And for the first time since we met, it felt like nothing could break us. It wasn't pretending anymore. It was love. Real, messy, terrifying, beautiful love. And somehow, I knew, this was only the beginning. After that kiss, something shifted between us permanently. Campus felt different. We didn't have to pretend anymore. Every handhold, every shared glance, every quiet laugh, it was real. And yet, reality wasn't without its challenges. The whispers hadn't stopped. Some students stared a little too long. Others whispered behind our backs. But we didn't care. We were learning to protect what we had, even when it felt fragile. One afternoon, we sat in our favorite quiet corner of the library. Sunlight streamed through the tall windows, illuminating Yuna's face. I couldn't help but stare. "Emma," she whispered. I looked up. "I need to tell you something." I felt my stomach tighten. "What is it?" She hesitated, biting her lower lip, a rare sign of nervousness. I've never felt this way before," she said slowly. "Not about anyone. Not like this. And it scares me, because I don't want to lose you." My heart lurched. "You don't have to worry about that," I whispered. Her eyes glistened. "But I want you to know, even if things get complicated, even if people judge us." She paused. I leaned slightly closer. "I want you to be mine. Really mine. Not pretending. Not fake. All of me. And all of you." I swallowed hard, my emotions overwhelming me. "I want that too. More than I've ever wanted anything." She smiled softly, brushing a strand of hair behind my ear. Her hand found mine again, lacing our fingers perfectly. And in that quiet, sunlit corner, we kissed again. This time, there was no hesitation. No fear of pretending. No doubts. Just us. Just love. From that day on, our relationship became undeniable. We faced challenges, whispers, curious eyes, the lingering shadow of Yuna's past relationships, but we faced them together. Every touch, every laugh, every secret shared brought us closer. One evening, we sat on the campus rooftop, watching the sunset. The sky glowed orange and pink, reflecting in our eyes. "Emma," Yuna whispered. I was scared at first. But now. I turned to her. Now I know that everything we went through, every lie, every fear, led us here. To this moment. To us. I smiled softly. "I'm glad it wasn't fake anymore." She leaned closer. "Me too. And I promise, no more pretending. Only us." We kissed again, long and slow, as the sun disappeared behind the horizon. For the first time, I truly believed that love could be messy, complicated, and scary and still be worth it. And as we held each other under the fading light, I realized something beautiful. Sometimes the heart doesn't need rules. It doesn't need guarantees. It just needs to be brave enough to follow love, even when it starts as a lie. And that's exactly what we did.